Very good morning to all. On behalf of Valamal Institute of Technology, I would like to welcome all the participants for this AICT sponsored STTDP program on slot 3 on assessment in engineering education, a pedagogical approach. The main objective of this assessment. Assessment is considered as the most important role in steering the learning process. However, we cannot conform to one particular methodology as the best assessment method for a course. An assessment plan helps in selecting the right testing method and decides on the relative weight of each assessment for the final result of a course. This also helps to ensure that assessment addresses the intended learning outcomes, which makes an assessment plan a helpful tool for examiners and an important instrument for quality assurance. An assessment matrix is designed to ensure that all the selected learning objectives are covered in the assessment, which helps to make certain that the assessment will be both valid and reliable. This is done by using different methods to set the cutoff score by using the rubrics. The participant will be put forward to apply quality criteria for the construction of assessments and assessment items to improve the quality of assessments education, which have huge impact on future education and career of students. So next thing is I'm going to give you some guidelines related to our STTP program. I hope the participants just follow the same thing. The participants are requested to attend all the sessions by using the Zoom app. Log into the Zoom app by using your registered email ID and change your profile name with the participant ID, which was mailed by us in the Excel file. Participants are requested to mute your microphone and camera during the sessions. All are needed to join in our WhatsApp group. The link will be available in the participation and confirmation mail also. As per the AICT norms, 80% attendance and minimum 60% score is to be secured in all the assessments. It's mandatory to avail your certificates. Feedback and attendance in Google Forms will be posted at the end of every session after the QA session in the chat box only. Assessment in Google Forms will be of MCQ type, short answer type, etc. Submit the assessment through the Google Forms only, which will be posted in WhatsApp group at the end of the day. Assessment forms must be submitted before the next day of 9:30 a.m., after which the link will get disabled. All the participants are requested to download apps which are instructed by the experts during the session as a part of activity in STTDP. If you have any query, please raise your hand in Zoom app. Our session coordinator will assist you. All the recorded virtual sections will be available in our YouTube channel at the end of respective slots. If any queries regarding technical issue, inform through WhatsApp group. Now it's my privilege to highlight our today's session speaker profile, Dr. B.S. Babla, sir. Yeah, I'm going to brief about welcome you, sir. Very good morning to Babla, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me start about the speaker profile now. Dr. B.S. Babla is presently working as a professor in Mechanical Engineering Department in NITTR. It's nothing but National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research. He worked as a dean as a faculty of engineering in Punjab University in Chandigarh. And also he worked as a principal in Chandigarh College of Engineering and Technology, which is a government engineering college under Chandigarh administration during the period August 2007 to September 2010. He obtained his UG and PG degree in mechanical background, and he also completed his PhD from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh in Punjab under deemed affiliated to the Punjab University. He had an industrial experience, worked with DCM Engineering Products and Swaraj Mazda Limited before joining NITTR Chandigarh. Also, Dr. Babla has authored 5 books, one published by Mercer Decker Inclusive in New York and 2 authored by Springer Publications. Especially, the book on CNC machines is very popular. It's being used for teaching at diploma, UG, and PG level students. He has also guided 10 PhDs and 175 MTech scholar students. Dr. Babla has published more than 150 research papers in international and research journals and conferences. He extensively visited various foreign universities like Canada, US, Hong Kong, and UK. Last but not least, he actively involved with national level bodies like AICT and NBA, and also involved in R&D projects with Punjab State Council of Science and Technology. Such an eminent personality we are having with us today as a speaker, and I am feel very happy to have you in our AICT sponsored STTP program, sir. Thank you so much for your acceptance. Let me hand over the session to you, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you, Professor Joseph. Thank you for a nice introduction. This is the, I think, third time I'm speaking in your sessions, these are CTPs. In fact, it is great of your institution, recognition of your institution that AICTE has given you 3 programs under the same topic. So as you are already in the 4th day of this program, and I see many participants who have joined the program. I'll just give you just small introduction about OBE, because without that I cannot commence my lecture. Okay. So my topic is basically how to plan for assessment or how to develop a assessment plan in OBE environment, right? Outcome-based education environment. So I'll talk about OBE first. What is that, and what is different in OBE than the present concept of what we call it as input-output based education. So I'm just starting my sharing of screen. Okay, host has disabled participant screening. Please make me the host or allow me to share the screen. The
Yes,
session.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, now you can do it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible, sir. Make it a full screen, sir.
I'll do that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So as I told you, my topic is on development of assessment plan in outcome-based environment, outcome-based education environment. What is that actually? Why do we call it as outcome-based education environment? I know you are already in the 4th day of the program, so some people must have talked about it. But unless I talk about this, I think I will not be able to do justice to the lecture. I'm just trying to adjust this. Now let us see what is the outcome-based education. I'm just trying to adjust this. Outcome-based education means clearly focusing and organizing everything in an educational system around what is essential for all students to be able to successfully do at the end of their learning experiences. Very clear. That OBE means clearly focusing and organizing all activities, whatever we are doing in your educational institutions or education system as a whole, including your affiliating university. So we want to focus and organize all activities around what? Around what? What is essential for the students to be able to do successfully. That means what my student will be able to, or what my student should be able to do at the end of their learning experience. What is this learning experience? Learning experience is basically, in broad term, it is 4 years of degree or 3 years of diploma or 2 years of Master of Engineering, or if you want to take it micro level, after going through a subject in your discipline. Let's say you are teaching air conditioning. Why the student should learn air conditioning, or what he will be able to do after doing that? What are the capabilities? You see, this paragraph is very important. Clearly focusing and organizing everything in an educational system around what is essential for the students to be able to do. That means we want to focus on everything, all activities, all actions, all planning. We want to focus on what is essential for the students to be able to do. That means if we want to do this, if we want to implement this outcome-based education, we should know what my students will be able to do at the end of 4 years of degree, or 3 years of diploma, or 2 years of master's program. That means we should first know what my students will be doing. It is not that we are teaching them for 4 years and we try to fit them somewhere. That okay, now you try in automobile industry. Now you try in software industry. That is what we are doing. We are producing generic candidates and we want to be fitted them at some place. Whereas in outcome-based education, we have a list of activities, knowledge, skill, and attitude, which the students will be attaining during the period of stay in your institution, during the 4 years. That means it is very important that we should have, in advance, we should know what my students will be able to do at the end of the required experiences after 4 years or 3 years or 2 years. So we have to define. Time frame is also very important. If you see the curriculum document or the books which diploma students are studying and your UG students, degree students are studying, they will be the same. But diploma students are coming with 10th qualification and they are spending 3 years in the polytechnic, whereas your students, BTech students, they are coming after 10 plus 2 and they are spending 4 years in your institution. So the expectation from the students of degree and diploma will be different. That means we will light the essentials of learning, what my students will be able to do, or we will write what we call it as learning outcomes, or we want to write the program outcomes. We will write the program outcomes that my student will be able to design or give a solution to a mechanical engineering problem, complex mechanical engineering problem. That means the students also know, I as a teacher also know, the employers also know, the parents also know what is expected of the student when he passes out the engineering degree from your college. Let's say we now onward we will talk about the engineering degree only. Right? This means, what does this mean? This means starting with a clear picture of what is important for all students to be able to do. That means, what are the expected outcomes? What are the expected outcomes? What are the expected knowledge, skill, and attitude values which the students will have gained or they will be able to apply when they pass out from the, let's say, UG program. Now, that is called program outcomes, POs. In accreditation terminology, we call them as POs. That means we will first write what are the program outcomes expected out of the engineering graduates who are passing out from engineering degree colleges. So this means starting with a clear picture of what is important for all students to be able to do, then organizing curriculum. You make your curriculum so that program outcomes I have. Those who have gone through accreditation, those who are planning to go through accreditation of NBA, or those who have visited the NBA website, they will find that NBA has defined, NBA has given 12 program outcomes for an engineering graduate. That means when an engineering graduate passes out, or when a student graduates from your institution, he will have 12 program outcomes. And this is not specific to any discipline. All engineers will have those 12 the program outcomes. They will have attained that capability to perform in those 12 outcomes. Now those 12 outcomes, if you have seen, they are very generic. They will say the student will be able to use basic sciences, mathematics, basic engineering, and one engineering specialization to give solution to the complex engineering problems. That means when I, as a mechanical engineer, read it, I say, okay, he will be able to give solution to complex engineering problems in mechanical engineering. When a computer engineering sees it, he will interpret it in terms of computer engineering. Electrical engineer will think in terms of electrical engineering problem, right? So this means starting with a very clear picture of what is important for all students to be able to do. That means we will define the program outcomes, what is expected out of the students when they pass out from your institution. Then organizing curriculum about the outcomes, how to meet those outcomes, what should we teach them. When I say, let's say in mechanical engineering, when I say that he should be able to design a system to solve a complex engineering problem, mechanical engineering system, that means I should give them something about the design process, some mathematics, something about engineering materials, something about the mechanisms, right? In addition, some inputs on safety, some inputs on wastage, some inputs on sustainable materials, some inputs on the societal aspects, cultural aspects, environmental aspects. That means I will write all those. That means against this outcome, I have an outcome which says my student, when passes out from the engineering degree, passes out with engineering degree, he'll be able to design a solution for complex engineering problem. Then I list what are the requirements. Now I, as an individual, cannot list. As a group of stakeholders, I have to talk to industry. I have to talk to industrial organizations like FICCI. And I have to talk to experienced people who have been working. I have to see the government instructions, or I have to see the direction in which the technology is going to come, so that I can decide what curriculum I should teach. That means based on the outcomes, I will design my curriculum. And instructional activity. That means, how do I teach it? Is it necessary that first I will take them to the classroom, then say that, okay, this is how a lathe should look. Then I go to the practical class. Or if I think as that, if I take them to the classroom first, so the labs first, workshop first, I show them what a lathe is. I explain them, the students, what are the components of a lathe, how the lathe works. Then I bring them to the classroom. So I have to change my instructional activities also. Maybe I want to embed a video where I can show the students a lathe. Like maybe I can embed a video where I can show how a computer looks from inside. Or I can show a video what is the structure of a microprocessor inside. Can I do it? In electrical engineering, I want to teach them smart grids. How a smart grid looks. What are the aspects? What are the components? So that means I have to decide topic-wise that if I want to teach this topic, I will go with theory only. I can go with chalk and board also. If I want to go to the next topic, probably I need a PowerPoint presentation, because there's a lot of figure work in this, which if I start drawing in my classroom, I will waste a lot of time. So I will have the pre-built slides on which the figures are already there, or mathematical equations are already there. I can talk to them. That you have to decide. That means I will decide the instructional activities. How do we want to go about the teaching process? Then assessment, we have the goals, we have the outcomes. We want that the student will be able to learn this things, right? Then curriculum also we have designed. We have designed the instructional methodologies also, instructional methods also, and we now need an assessment method. We need an assessment method which will be able to tell me which is a good method, assessment method, proper assessment method, which will tell me whether the student has learned or student has come to the level to which industry expects it to. I want that he will be able to design a solution. Can he do that? So I need an assessment method which checks this, which tests this, which assesses the students whether the learning has happened or not. We will organize all these things starting from the program outcomes to curriculum to instructional methods to assessment to make sure that the learning happens and it is tested properly, it is assessed properly, right? Now, what is outcome-based operates on? Outcome-based operates on what do you want the student to learn? What is my aim? What my student should learn? That should be very clear. That is basically program outcomes. What do you want? Why do you want them to learn it? There is a lot of issues. Let's say in mechanical engineering, the students will say that I don't want to learn mathematics. I don't want to study mathematics. I don't want to learn basics of electrical and electronics engineering. I, as a teacher, I as a curriculum planner, I as an educational planner, I as an educationist, I need to have the answer to this. I should be able to tell the students why they need mathematics, why a mechanical engineering needs mathematics, why should he study electrical and electronics as a subject, one subject, so that he can work on interdisciplinary projects. Unless he learns mathematics, he cannot do any engineering design. Now, how can you best help students to learn it? What can, as a teacher, what can you do so that the students learn it to the desired level? That means what strategies, instructional strategies you will design and practice. And how will you know what they have learned? What type of assessment you will have? Now, outcome-based education wants that you give multiple chances, multiple options to the students that, okay, you want to write the procedure or you want to tell me with the help of an example that I will solve it. You want to design a solution. So one is that you write this process which has been taught. Second is I will give you a small problem and design the system. Or I will give you an environment that I need something for such an environment. You come out with a solution. So outcome-based education defines the program outcomes clearly. First, the POs are defined. As I said, POs are defined by, now at this stage, POs are defined by NBA itself. They are given in the SAR. Right? SAR Performa, which is available on the NBA website, the POs are available. Provides learning activity to achieve the POs. That means what should you do? What theory, what practical, what project work, what seminars, what group tasks you should do so that you are able to attain the POs. How do you assess? That means you need to have a well-defined assessment system so that you can assess the students' learning outcomes. You don't certify until they are up to the level. It is not necessary that they will be excellent everybody, but you just keep a threshold that unless you are able to do 70% of the task, right, we will not certify you as an engineer. continuous improvement. In outcome-based education, continuous improvement is very important component. It says you keep the target. You say, I will certify you as, I will certify that such and such outcome has been attained if 70% of these students get 70% marks, let us say, in terms of marks. Now, when you have taught the students, you have taught the class, you have assessed them, evaluation, you have done it. But at the end of the evaluation, you find that the students have not attained. So the students have not attained the desired level. So what you do is you work on continuous improvement, right? You work on continuous improvement. Continuous improvement means you take the feedback, you analyze the system, where the system has gone wrong. I wanted 70% of the students to have attained very good level in a particular outcome. But actual outcome is 60%. So what do? I see whether the curriculum is okay, whether my teaching learning methodology is okay, or my assessment is okay. I review all these things. Reviewing is not to pass the students. Reviewing is to make the students learn. Idea is that the student should learn. It is not that the students are failing in mathematics, so you will drop the mathematics subjects from the next semester. No. We have to analyze it. Why the students? Where is the gap? And you have to take the improvement action on that. That is called continuous improvement. Now, if you see the outcomes in OBE, model hierarchy, we say vision and mission of the institution. You see why I'm teaching? Because we have to see the outcome of the program. Outcome of the program. Now, program outcome will be in terms of, there is no method of directly calculating the attainment of the program. So, attainment has to be based on some accepted principles, accepted activities. So, how the attainment, how the definition is done? You say first you define the vision and mission of the institution. I will not go into it. Program educational objectives. Program educational objectives are where you want the student, your students to be able to, where you want your students to be after 4 or 5 years of passing out from the program. Program outcomes. Program outcomes are basically what my students will be able to do immediately after passing the degree or diploma or master's program. Course outcomes. Course outcomes is basically what my students will be able to do when he completes one course. I have taught him programming in C++. What will be his capabilities? So for each course, you have the course outcomes. Then program outcomes, I have said that these are given by NBA. In addition to program outcomes, you can have program specific outcomes. As I said, program outcomes are generic. These are applicable to all the programs. Right? But PEOs, PSOs are basically for your program based on the location. My class. Program outcomes and PSOs, program specific outcomes. Program specific outcomes are basically specifics to your institution. You are in Chennai, there's a lot of automobile industry. So when your students pass out of mechanical engineering program, they will have excellent capabilities in solving the problems of automotive industry because they have been exposed to it. You have been taking them to the automotive industry for visits. Maybe you have arranged some lectures from those industries because they are available to you. So you can write 3 or 4 program specific outcomes also. Then course outcomes. Course outcomes are basically what the student will be able to do immediately when you complete the course. That means in one semester you are teaching a subject, a course, right? You are seeing 2 sets of arrows, right? One is coming from top to bottom and second is going from bottom to top. The top to bottom arrow says that when you have to define vision, mission, program, PEOs, POs and COs, you go from top to bottom. You first see the vision and mission of the institution. Based on that, or you first define the vision and mission of the institution and the department. Then you define the program educational objectives. Then you define the POs. Then you define COs. But when you want to find the attainment, what we have achieved actually, so first you say what has been achieved in course outcomes. This course outcomes attainment will contribute to the program outcome attainment, then PEOs attainment, then vision and mission attainment. The bottom 2, program outcomes and course outcomes, they are called short-term outcomes. They are immediately after you start the subject or after the completion of the program of 4 years. But PEOs and vision and mission, they will be achieved in after a long time, maybe minimum 4 or 5 years. It will take for the PEOs to be judged and maybe 10 years, 15 years for vision and mission of the institution to be judged. This vision, mission and PEOs, they are called long-term outcomes. You can, the participants can write their queries in the chat box because you may not be allowed to speak during this, but you can write this. I will visit the chat box off and on and answer your queries. Now, what is different in OBE? Curriculum is different, teaching learning approaches are different, assessment and evaluation is different, and there is a continuous quality improvement which we are missing in the system which we are following. The system which we are now following, that is called input-output based system. That means the focus there in input-output system is focus is on the teacher, what the teacher is doing. And we are presuming that if the teacher is doing well, students will also do well. It may not be true. So the input-output based system is basically teacher-focused system, and outcome-based education system is basically a learner-based system. It is not what I teach. That is not important. What is important is what the student has learned. Now let's see how these things are different. Curriculum design is based on the POs. How curriculum in OBE is different. There is an active involvement of the stakeholders. It is not made by a few persons sitting in their offices and handed over to the institution. Content is not static. Content is not static. That means you have a dynamic content which can be changed. You see, if you see your curriculum, there will be many things which cannot be changed actually, which will not change. Let's say in IC engine, basics will not change, but few things may change. Maybe electronic ignition has come. Maybe better diesel engine technology has come. So we should have an option of maybe let's say 80% of the curriculum remains the same, 20% it is at your hands, what you want to teach. Industry involvement in design of curriculum. Course outcomes are defined for each course, right? And there are well-defined practical tasks. I have visited a large number of institutions for MBA. I have seen that practical work is the most neglected work. Neglected work in terms of defining the practical in the curriculum document, conducting the practicals, and evaluating the practical. All these three stages are neglected. But in OBE, what is expected is that it will be a well-defined practical task, and evaluation system will be there, and the students will be required to do themselves all the practical work. Teaching learning process. How teaching learning process will be different in OBE. The teacher will be autonomous. It will be we will be empowered and responsible teachers. That means we will take the full responsibility for teaching learning process and for assessment also. We will not shirk responsibility. We will be honest, right? Flexible teaching learning process. Focus on development of knowledge, skill, and attitude. Teacher's role more as team member, leader rather than individual. That means you will have to work in teams, or teams with the students itself, teams with the faculty itself, right? Like you see, there are different modes of now teaching. Let's say flipped mode, where the students will come prepared and ask these teachers their questions only, their queries only. So that means the teacher will have to, the teaching learning process will have to change. Bloom's taxonomy is used extensively for planning of teaching learning activities. Bloom's taxonomy is one thing which all teachers should go through. It tells you how to make a question paper, how to make your teaching plan, how to assess the answer sheets, what level of questions you are giving. Is it only rote learning? That means some people have just mugged it up and they just reproduce on in the examination day. No, we have to go beyond that. We will allow these students to use books. There's no problem. We will start having open book examinations. But we as teachers have to dwell to that level that we are able to design the question paper. What do we want? That Bloom's taxonomy will give me. That capability will come when I start understanding of course, the subject matter which I am teaching, and Bloom's taxonomy, which says how, at what level I want to set the question paper. Teachers, as I will be different. It is covered. Students will also have to be different in OBE. They will be proactive students. They will do assignments seriously. It is just not copying. It is just not cut and paste, right? And the students will do innovative project work. Project work again is neglected in our institution because we don't have a system of allocating, monitoring, and evaluating the project work. The students are given project work and they just come one day before the final examination is there, and you also, we as teachers also sign their booklets and without going through it, and they just are through with the project work. Project work is basically, if we are doing like that, what I have just said, that means the idea of having project work is basically defeated. Project work was introduced in the curriculum to enable the students to make the use of whatever they have learned, all theory and practical they have learned in their, let's say, 7 semesters. In 8th semester, you do the project work. But we are not taking it seriously. We are not allocating it. Students are going to the market. Somebody else is making the project for them, and they are claiming the credit for that. They are not using their learning experiences. They are not having ethical values, ethics, morals, and values they have forgotten. And we as teachers, we are helping them do that. We are encouraging them to do that so that we don't have to work. So we need to have students who will need to do innovative project work. For that, we as teachers should be able to give them innovative project work. Okay, this was up to this. We had what is OBE. Can we have some questions? I'm going to chat box. There's no question in the chat box. Please, I expect some questions. All the participants, please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Very good morning.
You were talking about the top-down approach in the design of outcomes, and you were also saying that when we are delivering, it is going to go from the bottom up. Now, there were several stages between the vision and the course outcomes.
Yeah.
So in between, we have the mission, and then the PEO, and then the PO, and then the CO.
Yeah.
So since there are many stages involved, is there a review process required in between every stage just to ensure that we don't, there are no errors which magnify as it progresses? Like for example, we have decided the PEO and the POs, involving all the stakeholders. And then before
audio is not.
Yeah, am I clear, sir?
Now it is clear. So you said you have decided your PEOs and POs.
Yeah, PEOs and POs, let's say, involving all key stakeholders. We have arrived at in a meeting involving majority of the stakeholders like industry, academicians, and then professional body and all that. And then we straight away try to formulate the COs and then get into the syllabus and then start delivering the courses.
Yes, please.
So is that okay, or between every stage there is a review required just to make sure that there are no, we are not missing certain things, because this is going to be a very long process. This is not done in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It is almost going to be 4 years or 3 years, as you said, in a program.
You see, let's say, let me come to POs, program outcomes. Program outcomes we are not designing, isn't it? We are only adding some PSOs to this.
Okay.
Program outcomes are given by NBA.
Okay.
We can just little bit you can write, let's say, they write in one engineering specialization. I can write in mechanical engineering specialization. Okay.
Okay.
Or I can change little wording.
Okay.
But let's start from vision and mission. I have made the vision. Now, vision is not what I, as an individual, or you and me have sat down and we have made it. Okay.
Yeah.
It is all the stakeholders, what industry wants. That should be in my vision.
Yeah.
Right. Mission is basically how I will achieve it. So if the vision changes, mission will also change little bit.
Yeah.
It may or may not change, but it can change.
Yeah.
But when we say vision, vision normally should not change, isn't it? But
yeah, it should not. It should not, because at the starting of the institution, they would have had a vision, and
it is a long-term outcome. Okay.
Yeah, it continues.
It may or may not be achieved, but vision can change.
Yeah.
Why vision can change? Vision can change is somebody was making the let's say landline phone sets. They wanted to expand that. They will make 2 lakh phone sets in every month. But suddenly what has happened? Nobody wants to buy landline handsets.
Okay.
So they need to either change their vision or go out of the market.
Yeah.
That means there is a scope for change of vision also.
Yeah.
But as you said, it is not a static process. PEOs, course outcomes, it is not a static process. It is a dynamic process. We need to let's say I have taught a course on air conditioning. Let's say, or you have taught a course on C++.
Okay.
Now, after teaching the course, I should review it.
Yeah.
Whether, you see, I have written that my students will be able to write a program for complex C++ program for complex engineering problem. Now, students are not able to do it.
Okay.
But that is the requirement of the system. Market wants it. Market wants it. So I will not dilute my outcome. I will not say, okay, I was expecting 70%. Now I will say 50% students will be able to write. No. Many times, Professor, what I have seen is, because I have been roaming around throughout the country for NBA visit, people say that the input students we are getting, they are poor. They don't understand, right? You will agree that this is the common problem. This problem is there.
Yeah.
But when I am talking as an academician, in terms of the program outcomes, what I need to do is, I need to make sure that the program outcomes are attained.
Yeah.
The method you have to review.
Yeah.
Your course content you can review, but the program outcome should be attained. If I want that he should be able to design a machine, he should be able to design a machine. Whether he is a third classer, third grade students, if I have taken into the program, either I should not take him, or if I have taken him, I should make sure that he is able at least to perform the minimum standards. He may not be very good. So that means we need to review it.
Yeah.
And as I said, the students are not passing in mathematics. I will remove mathematics from the curriculum. No. I have to analyze why they are not passing. What should I do? So that means it has to be reviewed for, let's say, you want to have the course outcomes, or you want to have the vision and mission. Now, vision and mission is not that you as head of the department and your dean have sat and made it. No, there is a process that we will discuss with the stakeholders. We will make the vision. There is another body, let's say there is an academic committee which will see it, and it has to be approved at some level, maybe at BOG level.
Yeah.
So it is a continuous process. If there is a process for defining the vision and mission, and there is a process for review of vision and mission.
Okay.
Right? It needs to be reviewed. You, as you rightly said, because we have made it, and we will need to review it depending upon, as I said, there is a continuous improvement in this system.
Yeah.
So I hope it is clear, Professor.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Any other question, please? Now, my presentation is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
what is assessment? I will request to have many questions. I'll be very happy and not reading these slides and talking to you. Assessment and evaluation, we are normally using as a interchangeable words. We say assessment or evaluation, isn't it? We normally in our day-to-day working, we say either assessment or evaluation. But assessment and evaluation are two different aspects. Assessment is the systematic process of documenting and using empirical data to measure knowledge, skill, and attitude and beliefs. That means we want to just see whether what level you have come, whether the students have learned or not, or how many students have learned. But we don't give a judgment that he is pass or he is fail. Judgment can be used for improvement. That means I know that the students should have written the C program for simple problems, but they are not able to do it. So I go back and analyze and try to incorporate some changes so that there is some improvement. Whereas evaluation is the process of grading the students. 90% and above, A. 80% and above, A minus. And assessment is basically what you are doing in the classroom. Evaluation may add some more components other than the course content, like quiz, like seminar. It depends on you, what you want to give, because you have to make an assessment plan. Both require criteria, use measures, and are evidence driven. You need evidence, you need data for them, right? Assessment involves the interpretation of measurement data. It makes sense of data collected on students' performance. Just bear with me, I'll just clarify all this. Assessment is the process whereby one attempts to measure the quality and quantity of learning and teaching using various assessment techniques. This is the definition from Dictionary of Education. Then what is evaluation? Evaluation is a systematic process of determining what the actual outcomes are, but it also involves judgment and of desirability of whatever outcomes are demonstrated. That means it is basically, evaluation is basically a comparison between what should have been done and what has been done, or what the student should have been able to do and what he is able to do now. Should have been and able to. That means if he is not able to do, we say we are not passing you. You need to do something more. Process of delineating, obtaining, and providing useful information for judging decisions. That means the evaluation is basically a judgment. That means you have reached that level or not. Whereas in assessment, we don't judge. We only find the gaps, right? Although we can, somewhere we may be misled into assessment into evaluation and evaluation into assessment, because there are similar projects, similar things, similar terminology, similar aspects, but assessment is more a formative thing, continuous thing. Evaluation is at the end of the period, what period we have in mind. Assessment plan is a document that outlines student learning outcomes or department goals to be assessed during the academic year. That means when you have to make an assessment plan, we will write that what by the learning outcomes. Let's say we are talking about a course, your course, which you are taking. What I want to see, what are the outcomes, course outcomes? What are the direct and indirect methods used to demonstrate the attainment of each outcome or a goal? Is it only direct? Direct means giving a test, or indirect, where he can apply and tell you? Brief explanation of assessment method, what methods you will use and the resources or the sources from where the data will come. Right? Let's say now we are talking about data analytics. Lot of things are being done. Now, if you tell the students that you do some question on data analytics, we have to provide him some data. So from where the data will come? Indication of which outcomes or goals are addressed by each method. As I said, the course outcomes, we will calculate the attainment of course outcomes. And based on the course outcomes attainment, we will find out the attainment of the program outcomes. Now, when we are talking about course outcome, a particular course outcome, we have to link it to which program outcome it is to be addressing. Similarly, when you write, let's say you are making an assessment plan, you write a question, right? You write, let's say first a course outcome. Then you write how you will test it. What method of testing you will use to see whether that attainment has been achieved or not, right? Now, what type of question you will ask, what type of method you will have, and then to which program outcome it will be leading to. When we talk about POs and COs, there's a metrics normally we make for a relationship between the course outcomes and the program outcomes. We ensure that each program outcome, PO is at a higher level, CO is at a lower level. Course outcome is the subject. Now, when we want, when you are mapping the COs to POs, what we see is that each PO, there are, let's say, 12 POs in my B program. Each PO should be mapped to at least one outcome, CO. We are teaching, let's say, 30 subjects to the students. And as I said, each course will have 4 to 6 COs. Let us presume that every course has 5 COs. That means we will have 150 COs and we have only 12 POs. That means on an average, we will have 12 COs pointing to a PO. What I want to say here is that each course outcome should map to minimum one PO. If there is a course outcome which is not mapping to even one PO, that course outcome is not required in my program. Because when I am teaching a course, I want that all my program outcomes should be attained through the course outcomes. If a course outcome is not contributing to the attainment of any program outcome, that course outcome has to be re-looked into. Either it has to be deleted or it has to be redesigned. Similarly, when we talk about program outcomes, each program outcome should be addressed by minimum, that is theoretical, minimum one CO. Or let's say one subject, 4 to 6 COs. If there is a program outcome which is not being addressed by even 1 or 2 POs, these COs, that means there is something wrong with my curriculum. Because I don't have control over the POs. POs are 12. And I have a syllabus in which one of the POs is not being addressed by even a one CO. That means I need to go back and look into the curriculum. Anyway, interval timelines at which data is collected and reviewed. That means when will you collect the data for assessment? That means when will you conduct your continuous assessment tests, 3 class tests you want to have? What are the timelines? After 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months? When will you have the seminars? When will you have a quiz? Can we have a small project in each class? So when will we do it? That is a part of the assessment plan. And who is the responsible for collection of data? You want the same teacher who is working, or you want to assign the work to a different person so that he can do it? Because when I am teaching, I am assessing, maybe I may be biased towards some students. But if somebody else comes, maybe my colleague only from the institute, from the department, he may have an unbiased approach. Now, what should be there? The assessment plan should answer how will the learning outcomes be established, right? What are the outcomes? What would an ideal student know, be able to do or value? That means first I should define the outcomes. Let's say we are talking about a course. What course outcomes are required to be attained? What are the capabilities I want that the student should attain? I want them to write a C program, but I want to teach them C programming subject on course on C programming. So what I want, that they should be able to write an algorithm. That means without coding, they should be able to at least write in English. Then they should be able to write a program for simple problems, solving simple problems. They should be able to write programs for complex engineering problems, right? And they should be probably able to debug the program. Now for that, I will write that I have 4 COs for this. One is algorithm writing, second is debugging, third is small program, fourth is complex engineering problem solving program. Now against each CO, I will see what measures will be used for each outcome. How will I test each outcome? I want to see that he is able to debug a program. What method I will use for ensuring or for testing, for assessing that the student is able to write do the debugging of the program or not? Then I have to decide that, okay, I will give him a problem. Then he has to write a program for this. Right? He had to write in the answer sheet. Second is, I will tell him, no, not any answer sheet. You sit on the computer and perform the experiment. Right? Perform the experiment means you write it on the computer, try to run it. If it runs, I am happy. That means I will say that this CO is attained. How will the results be reviewed and decisions made? That is what I have told you, that how will you review the results? That means I need to have an evaluation sheet also. That means for each question, I will say, okay, if this much is done, if he is writing the types of variables correctly, that means 5% he is okay, right? If he knows that he will need structures in this or pointers in this, 20% is okay. If he writes the program, okay, 80% is okay. If the program is, he can debug the program, then maybe 100% is okay. That means I need to have an assessment plan. The criteria when I will say he is okay. When I will say he is 50% okay and he needs such and such improvement. What is the timeline for implementing the plan? When will I do it? And what technical assistance may be needed? Do I need a technical assistance for this? That means what resources? I may need more resources for this. When I have 60 students to whom I am giving a test on the computer, maybe I need 2 more teachers to assess them. So that means your assessment plan should have all this. It will just come. So an effective assessment plan will start with the department's mission statement. It will be given in the mission statement what we will do it. Would be built on program outcomes, because we have to attain the program outcomes through the course outcomes. So we should link it. We should be able to map it. Involve more than one type of measure. It is not only percentage of marks. How well he can write the program. Be developed and carried out by the program faculty. It is not to be given to you by somebody. It has to be given. It is the program faculty who are the grassroots level workers, who know the students and who know what they are teaching. They should develop it. Address the real questions and concerns faculty may have about students learning in their program. You see, it needs a real involvement. It is just not a taking the class and coming out. No, you are responsible. You are answerable for everything. Be used to improve student learning. Assessment plan basically is for improvement. It is like making coffee in your house. Right? What you do is you mix coffee, then put some sugar into it and taste. If sugar is lesser, you add some more sugar. That means you are taking a corrective action also. Whereas in our assessment, we are not taking corrective action. We are just saying that, okay, you have got 10 out of 20, the other person is get 4 out of 20, third person is getting 15 out of 20. Now, actual assessment says that we should see why a person has got 4 out of 20. What improvement he needs. And the class as a whole, you can analyze what are the good points and what are the points of concern where improvement is needed. So it should be used to improve the student learning, not merely, but it should not be because there is a schedule and we have to conduct the test and I have to send the marks. No. That binding will probably stop coming when we start behaving honestly and the system starts behaving honestly. Now this is the chart which shows the difference between assessment and evaluation process. Process is collecting, reviewing and using data for the purpose of improvement in current performance. Assessment is basically like making a coffee. Evaluation is act of passing the judgment. That means you are up to the level, you are not. That means there is no improvement chance here. But in assessment, the teacher also knows what improvement he wants, and he also knows what additional to be done to the students. Maybe he has to change his selection methods or this teaching method, or some students have to be given some more exercises. Nature of the assessment and evaluation. Nature of the assessment is diagnostic. You are trying to diagnose the thing and improve. Whereas in evaluation, it is the judgmental. You give the judgment, pass, fail, finish. What it does, provides feedback on performance and areas of improvement. Assessment. Whereas evaluation determines the extent to which objectives are achieved. Purpose is formative. Formative means continuous, what we are doing in the class. And evaluation is summative. Orientation. Assessment is process oriented. That means we want to see what the process is going on, where we want to make the changes, where we want to make the improvements. Whereas evaluation is when everything is over, you say product oriented. It is student centered. That means, okay, student has passed or failed. Feedback based on the observation and positive and negative points. But in evaluation, based on the level of quality as per the standard. In standard, we wanted that, okay, A plus will be 90%. So those who have in evaluation, we just give them that, okay, so many students will get 90% marks. Now, assessment evaluation can be at the course level, at the program level, at the institute level, at the state level, wherever you want. But we are talking about the course level and program level. So in course level, you have the desired outcomes, COs defined, as well as the assessment method. Assessment level decided for each CO. That means what is the level? When I say the CO is achieved, I say 70% of the students are able to design an air conditioning system for a given situation. I say that CO is achieved. If less than 70% are getting it, I need to do something more. Assessment rubric can be used for assessment of each CO. Course attainment assessment based on attainment assessment based on the attainment of COs. That means we say that if 4 out of 5 COs or 5 out of 5 COs attainment is 60%, we say the course attainment is available. Because the course also attainment, one is the course COs, one is the attainment of the subject itself, whether the students have learned the subject. POs, program outcomes and program specific outcomes are defined and known to the teachers and the students. They are known. It's nothing out of blue that a question will be asked. No, the students will know that I can be asked a question on design of air conditioning system. Program level assessment is not direct. It is basically based on the attainment of the course level this course level attainments. Now, what are the COs? Somebody must have talked to you. I just included this slide this time. CO are the statements of knowledge, skills, abilities that students are expected to know, understand and perform as a result of their learning experience in each course. They are 4 to 6 in number. Simple and understandable, achievable, measurable, focus on the course rather than on the topics. Time bound. Focus on the course and rather than on the topics means at some places I have seen that there are 6 topics in the subject syllabus. What people will do, they will write 1 CO for each topic. No, that is not the way. Focus is on the course. Focus is on the course, what my student will be able to do after going through this course, subject as a whole, not on the topics. So the focus will be on the course. Sometimes we say the COs should be smart, specific. They must provide description of precise behavior of and situation under which it will be performed. Must be concrete, focused on, and detailed. Measurable. They should be measurable. Sometimes say the student will be able to understand the laws of gravity. Now, how do you measure the understanding? I can write the student will be able to state the laws of gravity. If he is stating it, he is writing it correctly, I say, okay, it is measurable. But when you say understanding, I cannot judge it whether he has understood or not. Achievable. The objectives must be achieved by using reasonable amount of effort. It should be, by an average student should be able to achieve those COs. They should be realistic and they must be time bound. Must be clearly stated what with the time limit for accomplishment. That means what a student will be able to do in diploma is different. What a student will be able to do in degree in C programming, that will be different. So this I have covered. Various methods of assessment of COs are. Now, what type of questions you can have? When I said when we define a CO, we write the method of testing, assessing it also. I can have a descriptive answer questions. What we call it as essay type of answers that you say define. But students can be asked to write these descriptive questions. But it is difficult to evaluate this, right? What the students are writing, the students may not stick to the required format. Short answer questions. The descriptive type can check their overall understanding. Short answer questions, you can have small questions, 2 marks question, 3 marks question. Multiple MCQs, multiple choice questions. Matching type, you have 2 columns. On one side you write one type of word, second time you write the matching type, you can ask them to match. Completion type, it is like fill in the blanks. Quiz. Problem solving, you give them a problem and ask them to solve. Performance type, you tell the student that, okay, you go and perform this experiment, or you go and sit on the system and make this drawing on AutoCAD, or you sit on system and make a program for solving this problem. That means when you write a CO, you have to write the assessment method also out of these. Maybe you can have a project also, you can have a report writing also, right? You can add. This is some of the methods you have written. So what are the features of it? How the assessment in OBE will be different. Emphasis is on the output. Output means students here, end product. That means we are more bothered about the products, not the processes. Outcome-based assessment emphasizes the assessment of students' outputs or end products as opposed to lecture inputs. It is not how many lectures I have delivered, right? It is basically how much the student is able to do. Knowledge or content of the course is no longer the principal focus, but instead it is the application of the knowledge and demonstration of the required skill and values. As I said, I don't have to remember the things. I will allow the students to use books. But then the questions have to be framed clearly and intelligently, so that the question asks for application of the learned things, learned theory and practice. These outcomes have to be explicit to ensure that learners clearly understand what is being assessed and what is to be achieved. That means we should very, very clearly tell them that, okay, what I want that you should tell me the tonnage of the air conditioner which will be used in this room. And I'm giving you the situation that one side is exposed to air, this sun. It is two-story building, and I am talking about the first floor, not at the ground floor, not at the top floor. So I give the complete situation, complete data. Many times when the paper setter is not clear, they will say, assume the missing data. Why should he assume? Why the student? As an examiner, I should be able to give. Or if I am intending him to test on the student itself, whether he knows what data will be required, then it should be made clear to the student that, okay, this is one of the requirements. Outcome-based assessment is criteria-based as opposed to the norm-based. What is this? Criteria-based means the outcomes, program outcomes, are basically the criteria on which the student will be tested, assessed. That means I will say let's say there is a program outcome that my students, when they pass out from this college, they'll be able to work in teams as a team member as well as a team leader. Now I cannot have a question on this. इसमें marks तो नहीं हो सकते. What I do is I have to assess them continuously. Now I cannot assess them unless I have given them some group tasks, some teamwork, some project work, where they are required to work in groups. Unless I do that, I will not be able to assess them. Then what is this norm-based? Norm-based is basically what we have, that okay, 90% and above, A grade, 40% and less, fail. Here, in outcome-based education, the idea is that all these students should be able to do the minimum requirement of all the POs. Right? We don't want to fail the students. We don't want to compare the students in OBE. We want them that they should all be able to perform as per the requirements. Outcome-based assessment is criteria reference. There has been a complete shift away from the tendency to use the normal curve as the basis for making decisions about individual performance. I hope all of you know what is a normal curve, and we have been using that. Okay, we want that if my average value I want is 80%, if some students are getting 90, then same number of students should get the 80% also. If some students are getting 99, maybe some students should get same percentage of numbers should get 51 also, like that. Now in OBE, what we have is, in contrast to norm reference testing, which is designed for the purpose of comparing students with one another, I hope it is clear. Criteria reference assessment is a form of assessment in which judgments are made about learners by measuring their work against set criteria that are independent of the work of other learners. That means we are not comparing. We are not saying that he does this, you are not doing it. No, we are saying he also does it, you also do it. We will not compare the students. I want that everybody should do it. If you grade as given, learners' achievements are graded in terms of whether they are satisfied the criteria for assessment. You can have a rubric that okay, you can have a assessment sheet that okay, if he can do this up to this, he is 60%. If he can go beyond this up to this, he is 70%. If he is doing this much work, he is 80%. So you can grade them like that also. But minimum requirement everybody should meet 60% or 70%, whatever is there, you should have a criteria. Criteria are specified in terms of outcomes set for a course. By putting the time and effort at the beginning of the course, reflecting on and specifying criteria and communicating these clearly to the student, one is in a better position to facilitate learning by giving learners feedback on the extent to which they have or have not met the criteria. That means we are initially, before starting, we are telling the student that this is my requirement. These are the 4 levels in which I will put you. And for being in level, let's say 3, you should be able to do this. That means students know to what level they should come. And the teacher also knows, the evaluator also knows that this is what I have to test. Even if I test or you test, you assess or I assess or the third person assess, the results should be same. Outcome-based focuses on using frequent and varying assessment techniques to guide students toward achieving the outcomes set for the course. That means it is not, as I said, it is not one. It is not as a sign. It can be a sudden test also, right? Surprise test. In contrast to continuous assessment, in which one merely assesses repeatedly, continuous assessment makes use of a variety of assessment practices during a course or module with the intention of understanding where the learner is. I can tell them that, okay, everybody should write the C program to solve this problem, right? At the same time, I tell them, now you go and sit on the computer. Let us see how you can do it. Feedback from assessment enables the lecturer involved to provide as much guidance to the learner as possible. That means assessment gives a feedback to the student, the teacher, about the student as well as his teaching strengths. What are the strengths of the students and how much effective his learning methods are. The feedback guides learners on the strengths and weaknesses of the students as well as the teacher and advises them on how to progress. It may not be formal, as I said, you can have surprise tests. Its intention is to inform the students on the success of their learning so far. That means how much they have learned. Outcome-based assessment makes use of both formative and summative. Formative assessment is used to chart the learner's progress as he or she works towards achieving a specific outcome to become competent. That means it is a continuous assessment, right? It is a continuous. Formative is continuous and summative is end of learning, at the end of the learning program. If students have not met the criteria, they would not be competent yet, and the onus would be on the assessor to specify what learners have to do in order to meet the criteria and become competent. It is not just not putting the tick marks in the answer sheet, right? I have seen everybody does it, that you just put the tick mark and put, let's say, as teachers you will say, okay, it is a 10 marks question, I will give him 7. No, I should need to write. I need to write why 7, why not 8, why not 10? What is the gap? Or the student, the evaluator will write where the student is lacking, what improvement he wants so that he learns, he comes to that level. Summative assessment is formal assessment that is administered at the end of the learning program. The judgments are made with reference to the criteria set for assessment tasks. Right? This is what summative. Okay. Outcome basement is concerned with issues of reliability and fairness. What is reliability? Reliability refers to the consistency of measurement. That means if I do the assessment, or you do the assessment, or third part or fourth person, they do the assessment, the results should be same. Outcome-based assessment is conducive to reliability in that the specific outcomes and criteria are basis upon which the assessment is planned and administered. That means when you have very clear guidelines, when you have the rubrics, that assessment will be done based on this, whether I do it or somebody else do it or you do it, the assessment should be same because the criteria is written, very specific steps are written. You have the rubrics. These are constant regardless of who is assessing and who is being assessed. It is not student based, it is not evaluator based, it is common for all. Laying down these specifications makes it necessary for the assessor to use them as a guide in planning, developing and administrating assessment. Because they are specific, known and clearly understood by all, they act as an inbuilt mechanism against assessor inconsistency and assist with the transparency of assessment and description of standards. So I hope I have cleared it. Assessment method and criteria have to match what is to be assessed. Basically, what we want is that there's the one requirement of a test, whatever question you want, whatever testing plan you have, that it should be valid. Valid means it should test what it is required to test. I want to test the knowledge of the student or the capability of the student that he is able to write a program to solve a engineering problem. But the question which I am asking is, I am asking him, who is the person, what is the name of the person who invented computer? There is no match in what I want to assess and what the question I am asking the student. Judgment or results showing measurement outside of what is stated are viewed as invalid. That means very practical example I am just giving you. That is one example I have given. Second example I am giving is that many times, and we feel we are justified in that as teachers, what we say is that if somebody is not writing correct grammar, correct English, we deduct marks. What OBE wants is that you can deduct marks for wrong English, but we must have told the student before starting that we will expect him to write correct English, correct grammar. If we have not told him that we will deduct marks for incorrect grammar, then we are probably wrong in deducting marks. So many of us may have consciously or unconsciously marked down a student's assignment due to this or his or her incorrect use of grammar. It would be invalid to reward or punish a student for this if it was not specified as a criteria. It would also be unfair. Just see to what extent we have to be clear. We have to be very clear. Now, how do we implement this? He says, when you want to do this, you want to make an assessment plan. He says, focus on one of the courses modules which you are currently teach and ask these questions. What are the specific outcomes which I expect students to demonstrate upon completion of the course? That means first write the COs, right? What are the capabilities? What are the knowledge, skills, and attitude? What I want to learn out of this? What I want the students to be able to do when they pass out from this course, when they go out of this course. Before planning assessment strategies, set specific outcomes for the course. That is, it says write the COs. COs we have, but then you write an assessment strategy for each CO. An outcome being a result of learning occurs after or at the end of the learning experience to which it is tied. That means, do you want to test immediately after teaching the topic? When you feel that the outcome has, that CO has been taught, or you want to test it after 1 month or 2 months or after the semester. Outcomes require the ability to translate and apply the intellectual and psychomotor process aspects of learning into tangible form. Pertinent vocabulary to be used in stating outcomes include words like describe, write, define, analyze, explain, construct, diagnose, organize, apply, evaluate, compare, right, create. We have to avoid the words like understand. Now, these verbs will come from Bloom's taxonomy. If you go through the Bloom's taxonomy, all this will be explained. And they will tell you what level of learning. When you say write the principle, that means you are just writing the lowest level. One word. When you say analyze, that means you are going to a higher level. You want the student to analyze also. Analyze the situation. When you say apply, that means you have taught him something and I want him to now apply it to some different situation. Now, in addition to the course outcomes, program outcomes, we expect the student to have some generic or critical outcomes, or we call life skills, which also have to be taught to the student and assessed also during the program. Now, I cannot have a subject on ethics, let's say. I cannot have a subject on team building. I cannot have a subject on lifelong learning. But we have to make some method that the students are learning these things, because these are the requirement of the profession, requirement of the work environment where they will work. So it is important to plan and document how over the course of their whole degree, students will realize their skills like identify and solve problems, work in teams, organize and manage self, collect, analyze and evaluate information, communicates effectively, use science and technology, recognize problem solving contacts. So this is what I wanted to talk to you, but I am available for the questions now.